a fantasy rebooking of sorts for the 2016 Ghostbusters remake. There was a lot going on in the lead up to this film's release, much of which I will cover later when I take down the recent tactic of defaming fan bases. For this film, creating controversy was Sony's game, seeing how much publicity they were able to squeeze out of the interview years earlier with Seth Rogen and James Franco. A third Ghostbusters film was gestating for decades. To save you some time, I'll have a link to an excellent video from the Angry Video Game Nerd about the history of the Ghostbusters 3 sequel. I'll have a link in the description. Ivan Reitman intended to direct while Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis would star and write the film. This period of developmental hell gave way for the excellent 2009 video game, which many consider to be the third Ghostbusters movie. The choice of the film becoming a remake falls on producer Amy Pascal, as she was desperate to have Paul Feig direct, enticing him with full creative control as part of her initiative to have more female-empowering films. Well, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. With Ramis' passing, Reitman stepped down as director and stayed on as producer. The amount of creative freedom afforded to Feig only distanced Reitman. This led to the film we were given 2 years ago. Could a better film be molded from the pieces in place before Feig was brought in? Absolutely, yes. No question about it. A Ghostbusters film could have been made to both appease Pascal as well as stay true to the universe in place under director Ivan Reitman. Let's go ahead and rebook the 2016 Ghostbusters movie. Before I begin, let's set up some objectives. First, the film needs to be female empowering to make Amy Pascal happy. Second, it needs to be a passing of the torch film as envisioned by Ivan Reitman. We need the best filmmakers involved in both screenwriting and directing. Fourth, we need to improve the chances of profitability. Last, maintain the goodwill of the fan base. I'm all for a team that's female empowering, but don't make it strictly female-centric. Base the team on the 2013 IDW Comics run that had the team made up of 3 women and 1 man. Specific characters will be brought up in a bit. Next, we need the elements to make it a passing of the torch film, which means bringing back as many of the original cast as possible, and not through nefarious means like threats of litigation. The new team needs mentors. Who better than both Ray and Winston, with Dan Aykroyd and Ernie Hudson reprising their roles? Ray has become more of the Egon character, using more of the science jargon and still keeping the childlike enthusiasm associated with the character. Winston is way overdue for more screen time. He's a stand-in for both the audience and the new team members who aren't the scientist type. He can translate the jargon into layman's terms. The other original cast members can be put in minor support roles. Peter and Dana Venkman are enjoying a married life together post-Ghostbusters 2, same for Lewis and Janine Tully. Having Peter and Lewis in a limited capacity would likely be enough for Murray and Rick Moranis to come back for fan service. To honor Harold Ramis, who passed away in 2014, they could name the original Ghostbusters firehouse the Spengler Branch. Now the new recruits. The 2013 IDW Comics is the basis, but we're slightly changing the lineup to match it more with the world of the previous films. The keepers are Kylie Griffin and Melanie Ortiz. Kylie is the paranormal enthusiast with a dark sense of humor and perfect for Scott Pilgrim's Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Ortiz is a Latina former FBI agent and every woman for Winston to banter with. Aubrey Plaza of Parks and Rec, and also a Scott Pilgrim alumni, would be my pick. Janine Melnitz is the leader of the IDW team, but I feel Annie Potts is too old to be handling an unlicensed nuclear accelerator on her back. Let's say Janine and Lewis had a daughter, Megan Tully. Megan being M-E-G-O-N. This is another homage to Ramis and a callback to the hinted romance between Janine and Egon in the original film. Abigail Breslin is the right age to be the daughter of the Tullys. Ron Alexander was the male member of the team. To connect this film to the others, we need to replace him with a grown-up Oscar Barrett. Decades later, he is still haunted by the events of Ghostbusters 2, where he was briefly possessed by Vigo the Carpathian. He's sensitive to paranormal phenomena and can see ghosts everywhere that normal people can't. He would make a great foil for Kylie's obsession with the supernatural. Aaron Paul would be my choice and was one of Ivan Reitman's picks when he was still slated to direct. Just watch his work on the final season of Breaking Bad. That's the type of portrayal that would work immensely for Oscar Barrett. He adds the needed drama to the horror comedy shenanigans. For the equipment research and development, I would bring in Regina Hall as a venture capitalist who has made a lot of her wealth supporting the team. She gets a cut of the franchise and a piece of the fees from their calls. For the climax, she can be the deciding factor that leads the team to victory. Hall can be funny without resorting to stereotypes or just being loud. I also want to keep the male secretary character, which is a funny idea. Remove the eye candy element of Chris Hemsworth, seeing as how Janine was never treated as such. Let's propose Janine and Lewis also had a son, John Franklin Tully, a tribute to John Franklin Candy. Candy was beloved by the members of the original cast, especially Bill Murray. I'd like to see Nicholas Hoult of Fury Road and X-Men Days of Future Past to play John Franklin Tully. The man can do comedy, but is just not given enough of an opportunity to do so. I think the only comedy he's done is Warm Bodies, but I'd like to see him do more. The villain of the film is consequential, since the focus of the film is the team building. Despite this, I would support Reitman's original pick of Sacha Baron Cohen, Borat himself. He would make the most of his screen time. He can be both scary and funny. Who would be the best filmmakers to bring this concept to life? Let's start with the writers. Having Aykroyd and Reitman are no-brainers since they can help keep the logic and continuity intact from the previous films. I would add Joe Cornish because of his experience with ensemble genre comedy, a la Attack the Block and Ant-Man. Plus, he was already a known entity to Sony. Ramis was originally the scientific counterbalance to Aykroyd's love of the supernatural. We need someone of that mind. I would recommend John Spates, the writer of the original script for Prometheus. If you can find it, the original script for Prometheus was the alien movie everybody wanted. But Ridley Scott and Damon Lindelof cut it to pieces. For the director's chair, I would recommend Cornish. With Attack the Block, he showed he could work on a genre film with a budget. Reitman could stand in as a mentor of Cornish, guiding him through the production as a quality control of sorts, but still letting Cornish give the film his own style. Next, we need to improve the chances of profitability. Movies are a business, and like all businesses, to thrive, they need to make money. Now we need to crunch some numbers. The original budget of the 2016 remake was $154 million. When Pascal stepped down and Tom Rothman took over, the budget was reduced by $10 million, down to $144 million. Still with me? According to Paul Feig in an interview, the film would need to make $300 million to break even, $500 million to be considered a success. Did someone forget they were making a Ghostbusters movie and not a Marvel movie? The original film's budget in 1984 was $30 million. Adjust for inflation in 2016, the budget would turn out to be about $69 million. If you cut down the effects and focus on the characters, there is no reason for a Ghostbusters movie production to cost more than $70 or $80 million. That's around half of the amount of money spent on the remake. Too much money was thrown in for it to have a chance to make a profit. The people behind the remake failed to maintain the goodwill of the fan base. Sure, there will always be those few who hate on the movie no matter what. Sony should have just ignored them. To sink to the level of the trolls is only going to turn away the multitudes sitting on the fence about whether to see the movie or not. Allow me to activate PR mode. Here's what Sony should have said. We know there are people out there who are passionate about the Ghostbusters license, and we respect their concerns. We want to make the best movie possible. All we ask for them is to give our movie a fair chance. That's all they needed to say, and that's all they should have said. except they kept on having to respond back to trolls and only make themselves look all the more petty for it. On a side note, do not skimp on the Ecto Cooler. Put that stuff anywhere and everywhere, online and offline. Put it in every possible grocery store. It will be a guaranteed sellout. In fact, it was one of the best-selling items, if not the best-selling item associated with the film's release. And there you have it, folks, how the 2016 Ghostbusters movie could have been saved. It would have appeased both Pascal and Reitman. It stood a better chance of making money. It would have respected the old fans as well as welcoming in the new fans. Sony, if you're interested, I will gladly work for Ghost Corps for a measly $50,000 a year. I know you can afford it. I saw the box office you made for Spider-Man Homecoming and Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle.